Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is Richard Scott. I'm editor of Personal Care magazine and moderator of the World of Chemistry programme, which I've done now for the NYSCC since 2018. On behalf of the NYSCC, I'm pleased to welcome you to NYSCC Suppliers Day at Home Live Week of Beauty and to this special programme which is relaunching our full World of Chemistry offerings. Today's presentation, brought to us from Japan, is a new addition to the World of Chemistry programming and was facilitated by NYSCC's sister organisation, the ISTP. We hope to reach and have participation from the Society's members from around the globe. To make the most of your webinar participation, please note that the Q&A is handled via the chat box in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Handouts for this programme and other select presentations in this series are available for download. Please also be sure to take the survey at the end of the presentation and in our follow-up letter. I sincerely thank you for joining us and welcome your feedback and comments about this programme. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Kazutami Sakamoto, who will be presenting tips to improve emulsion stability. Dr. Kazutami Sakamoto is a former professor of the Graduate School of Pharmacy at Chiba Institute of Science. He's also a guest professor at Tokyo University of Science and received his PhD from Faculty of Science at Tohoku University in 1980. He has extensive R&D experience with Ajinomoto, Shiseido and Seiwa Kasei. He was a chairman of Division of Colloid and Surface Chemistry at the Chemical Society of Japan for 2007 to 2008 and is a fellow of the ISTP. Before we make the stage yours, Dr. Sakamoto, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Givaudan, and also acknowledge the support of Personal Care magazine. We're very grateful for the partnership we have with SCC and NYSCC in particular. The support of the supplier sponsors also allows NYSCC to continue offering these fantastic programs. Okay, without further ado, Dr. Sakamoto, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Richard, for the nice introduction. Hello, everybody. This is Kazutami Sakamoto speaking from Kawasaki, Japan. It's my pleasure and, of course, a very big honor to do this for SCC New York and also IFSCC. And today, I would like to tell you about tips to improve emulsion stability from the viewpoint of merely emulsion or nevertheless emulsion. Now, let me start my talk, and I will do this by this order of the four main topics. First, I will explain what I'm thinking about emulsions as a merely or nevertheless. Then, second, I'll show you the key factors controlling emulsion stability. Then after that, this number 3 and 4 is really main topic of today's my presentation. Something we developed was still under development, but I'd like to tell you this could be a new tips for the emulsion stability and expecting to give you some idea. Number 3 is about ISP, integrated surfactant property, which could be a good alternative parameter to HLB. And then lastly, about AIM, active interfacial modifier to manage liquid-liquid interfacial properties. Now, let's go on to the first part as the merely and nevertheless aspects of emulsions. And actually, this topic with Yuji Yamashita, we published this article in the open journal. So you can access this and you can get more details of what we are thinking about this merely and nevertheless of the emulsions. Now, let's think back about what is emulsion as a basics of the today's talk. As you know, of course, well, emulsion is a dispersion of liquid droplet in another liquid, of which both liquids are immiscible, like water and oil. And also, emulsion is a non-equilibrium system which inevitably separates back into two phases in equilibrium. So this is a kind of like some dynamic free energy diagram. So we have immiscible liquids, two liquids separated. In the case of oil and water, oil is on the top and water is here. Then adding some energy to make the surface being expanded. So one of the liquids came to be a dispersed droplet to make that one. So we need to add some energy to make this. And because of the free energy of emulsion is much higher, emulsion spontaneously go back. And the key, which I will show you for the next slide, though, is 2 points. Because this is a stable state, to minimize the interfacial area, because interface has extra energy than the, each single liquid. That's why by making droplet means expanding surfaces. That means also expanding the extra high energy state of the surfaces. So this tends to go back to the minimum size of the area. This is the reason why emulsion is not stable. But to go back from emulsion to here, this is a way occurring on the many processes in the demulsifications. Droplet have to come closer to contact in many ways, then make smaller particles get together to coalesce to make larger surface, but other area reducing the surface area by coalescence. Then finally come to the minimum surface area to be separated oil and water on the earth, because water is heavier. And this is the minimum surface. But in the case of droplet, sphere is the smallest surface area. So having some given volume, the surface area is smallest in as a sphere. But having many small particles having the same volume beginning means larger droplet means to reduce the surface area. That's why this is, they have to come together. So they have to go up this hill, but after that, go down to this original state. Now, to make dressing, this is the commercial dressing, just said here, French dressing, and actually as a product, oil and water is separated, or we can use just oil and vinegar. And we need to shake the container to mix well to make this emulsion. But if we stop shaking, then the dressing separates spontaneously back to its original state of oil and water once we stop shaking. Just making emulsion, but emulsion going back by demulsification in pathways already shown. So emulsion is again a non-equilibrium system and created by energy input, and it's unstable. So today's topic, how to make emulsion stable. An effective way to increase emulsion stability is reduce these energy differences. If this emulsion state is like here, then it's not necessary to go back. But in case emulsion is always more surface area. That's why reducing this by some means. And this means reducing this interfacial energy. That is the work of emulsifier to reduce interfacial tension. So use of the emulsifier really works for this. Or increase this barrier for the droplet to come closer or get together. So if this is very high, it's very difficult for emulsion droplets to get together or come to the 2 to 1. Now, cosmetic developers face challenges to create an emulsion which is stable during storage and also comfortable in use. But very often, comfortable in use is kind of the factor easy to break. So these 2 points are really often conflicting. And what I said about merely and nevertheless, including all these factors, and if you know this merely and nevertheless aspect, that will give you hints to foresee the problems and find the solutions for that. What I meant as merely aspects of emulsion is emulsion can be made simply by mixing two liquids with force, just like making dressing. To stabilize that, emulsifier would help, as explained before. So it's just simple, just make it, but it's not so simple to be a good product. That is a part of nevertheless aspect. To make an emulsion that is stable for storage and comfortable in use is not something that can be easily achieved. So we must understand the basics of emulsion. Only then we can make emulsions with desired functions and create novel functional products. And we must look deeper into the complexity of emulsions and explore further to find new horizons for emulsion. Now, let's get into the key factors controlling emulsion stability. As already talked here, we have to know the basics. And there are several tips to read you for this. Phase diagram, bulk physical property, HLB, controlling the interfacial phase. Those are the key factors controlling emulsion stability. And just briefly, I will explain about each. Phase diagram. This is very important. Rather basic, sound basic though. To know the what this means would be very useful. Emulsions are really composed of multi-components, and the way to categorize these multi-components, what category this material belongs, either or one, this is in the water phase, or is this in the oil phase, or is this together with emulsifier? Because to make emulsion, water and oil immiscible to liquids, and this is an emulsifier to reduce the interfacial energy. And very often, not saying this is emulsifier, but many ingredients, actives even, has somehow the nature of emulsifier as amphiphilic structures or just water soluble or oil soluble molecules. So part of oil or part of water, or could be part of even emulsifier. So knowing that, and if you know the phase diagram, it would be the key to design stable emulsion. The next point is bulk physical property. As already said, to keep emulsion stable is increase the activation energy of particles come closer or get together. And to prevent that, the bulk phase properties such as viscosity or giving the repulsion for the droplet would help for the stability. So to know this would be a very important factors for the emulsion stability. Then here, lastly, HLB or controlling the interfacial phase. This is important. The selection of emulsifier to reduce interfacial tension and way to make stable interfacial layer in between oil and water are keys. As said before, to reduce the delta G, the difference of energy, free energy level between emulsion and separated oil smaller is a way to stabilize emulsions. And there are many books or courses to teach that. So I don't get in further, but we have nice articles, 3 of that, especially this one, we put more details in this book. So you can find this more details through these things. Now, we have 2 new ideas to tell you, expecting some hints maybe you never thought about. So first one is ISP. We named it ISP from integrated surfactant property as an alternative parameter to the HLB. And the reason is, of course, HLB is very standard way or very important, useful tool to define the nature of surfactant or emulsifier you will use. And this HLB stands, of course, on the hydrophilic lipophilic balance of emulsifier, and basically developed based on these molecules. So polyoxyethylene, EO type of emulsifiers, non-ionic emulsifiers. And with this changing this hydrophobic part or changing just the number of these EOs, you can make a variety of properties of emulsions. And to give some index, and there are many ways, but a very typical way is offered by Griffin or Davis or conceptual diagram to calculate HLB. Or the case, they gave some special number for the specific hydrophilic group and also hydrophobic part. So combining using some table or sometimes empirical number, you can calculate the HLB of this molecule. In this case, for C12, fix this and by changing these numbers. But unfortunately, by using different formula, in HLB value is differs. So HLB is not intrinsic physicochemical property of molecule, just as an index. So you have to stay as long as you will use HLB in the sum system. If you jump here and here to combine the numbers, it won't work. And even though, as long as staying on this type of surfactant, not just for the emulsion, HLB number would correspond to the many other properties of solutions, such as phase inversion temperature, cloud point, or CMC, or aggregate structures of each molecules on EO type. But unfortunately, these days we are using a lot of very different structured molecules as an emulsifier. So even you would have the HLB number given from supplier, that HLB number wouldn't mean any specific properties. Depend on the way of calculation or depend on the type of surfactant. this widespread area you have to try. So what we thought about as an alternative is to make this closer to the straight line, how we can do. And we made this ISP, integrated surfactant potency, with using chromatography. So this idea, we got inspiration for the chromatography as a separation or characterization of the molecules. And this is the case we did for thin layer chromatography. As you know, to analyze the structures or compare the properties for the hydrophilic product, we usually use normal phase, that's a hydrophilic stationary phase. On the other hand, if we analyze or measure the property, very often we use reversed phase stationary phases. So we got the idea, why not to combine these two factors, because in this case, this is a capacity constant can be calculated from these distances. In the HPLC, you can use retention time at the same meaning. And getting this Kn for the hydrophilicity and the Kr as a lipophilicity, then combining these two, just like HLB, to get ISP. This is the original idea of ours. Then what we did is, just as regular TLC measurement, for C12 fixed EOs from 2 to 8 units, or same C12 for the glycerol. In this case, unfortunately, we only can get pure for 2, 3, 4. And this is a normal phase. This is a reversed phase TLC result. And by changing this unit number and getting this Kn and Kr, very likely we can get just straight line for the log of this Kn or Kr for both hydrophilicity, and hydrophobicity. And in the case of HLB by calculation, they never comes on the straight line. So this could be physical meaning. And by, especially, please put your attention to this. Using same C12, just changing the hydrophilic unit numbers, and in the calculation of HLB, all the calculation regards hydrophilic group just hydrophilic. But in reality, in EO, we have 2 carbons or 2 methylenes, or we have 3 carbons. So their hydrophobicity, even in EO, so increasing this hydrophilic unit, then we have to expect some increase of hydrophobicity, even increasing hydrophilic part. And by this measurement, this was exactly shown on the linear line. Now, then combining these two, Kn and Kr in log, now we can get, this is ISP in log by hydrophilic unit very beautifully on the straight line. And this ISP made straight relationship to the physicochemical properties of material PIT or cloud point. And even for the CMCs. So this ISP could be a good alternative index or parameter to define the specific emulsifier. But we tried to expand this to the commercial molecules. So for the EO type, Those are just a number of the samples, but having this wide dispersed combination of EO and RQ chains, and by measuring and proportion and the calculation from the pure molecule, we found ISP really correspond to crowd point, not just pure molecules, but also well-prepared, pure mixtures, but even commercial products come to this on straight line. So this could be a good alternative to define the nature of molecules. And we found this ISP even could expand further to the different structured molecules. This is a sugar type, sugar ester type. And those are numbers given by supplier, probably by calculation. But those are the HLB. After measuring their ISP, we converted this to HLB. Then, just as people try to find best combination of the emulsifiers, using given oil and water and surfactant and required HLB, if you know HLB number, you can make the emulsion fit to the required HLB. But unfortunately, if you use the HLBs given by supplier, the result was not good, not stable. But in the case we used the HLB given from ISP, in both cases, sugar or glycerol surfactant, made such a nice emulsions. And so usefulness of ISP as an alternative index to HLB was confirmed. Then last item is AIM, active interfacial modifier to manage liquid-liquid interfacial property. The concept we are offering or trying to tell you is just because if you use any surfactant or emulsifier in the system, only the emulsifiers absorbed at the interface works, but most of the emulsifiers are either in the droplet or in the bulk solid. So if we have something as an emulsifier only works for the interface, it would be much better to reduce the amount and make more stable emulsions. And the reason we tried this is we had many very special molecule, which is a polymer hybrid type of emulsifier based on the silicon backbone with hydrophilic chains as a hydrophobic part, and also hydrolyzed silk peptide as a hydrophilic group. And this molecule won't dissolve even water or oil. Because of the silicon backbone, this could disperse, but not soluble even in silicon oil. And with this, using this for the triangle phase diagram, emulsifier, water, and oil as a D5, very wide range, regardless of the composition, just shaking components, you can get very stable and monodispersed emulsions. And because of the gravity, this emulsion as WO, the droplet, starts to sediment. But after even 2 years, 18 or more than 2 years, this small phase still keeps emulsion, and droplet just come close but never coalesce. So the size distribution kept. And if just simply shake this go back to the original. So this is one of the way to reduce interfacial energy and also prevent the coalition or coalescence of the droplets. And this is evidence. This molecule only stays in between water and oil, giving this probe, fluorescent probe, by using confocal laser scattering microscope. we could show exactly where this locates, not in the bulk, not in the droplet. That's why the minimum amount of this could work as a emulsifier and very stable. And with this, we can make many different sizes of the emulsions by just input of energy. And very interesting, this AIM won't reduce the surface tension or interfacial tension, not like regular emulsifier. In this case, surface adsorbed emulsifier works to reduce the interfacial tension and give the emulsion stable. But on the other hand, this just stays in between, just like pickling emulsion. Very small reduction, but this is not really the reason this works, because this is only goes to the interfaces. So now we are thinking to expand this AIM concept, not just for our molecule, but even as a very wide concept, pickling emulsions or maybe liquid crystal layers, interfacial layers, as a phenomena could be even categorized within this AIM. Now, with this AIM, we can avoid coalescence, but there are many other factors to the emulsify the emulsions. And because of the gravity, always we have to suffer creaming or sedimentation. So if we go to the space, we can eliminate this factor and measure this really basics. And we have very interesting instrument called 3D clinostat, like this. So this machine moving around with 2 axes. So by averaging this out, unstable emulsion with this emulsifier under the 1G, creaming happens after several hours, and also coalescence happens like this. But if we put this emulsion on this clinostat, we can keep even this unstable emulsion, but maybe in space, but even on the Earth, we can make this very stable emulsion. So this is not the way to make emulsion stable on the Earth, but this is a nice tool to analyze what is the really serious factor affecting to the emulsion stability you are trying to make. So this is actually my presentation ending and summary about merely and nevertheless what I'm thinking or we are thinking. And as a guide of tips, I introduced these factors, but especially a new idea for the ISP or AIM to control the interface that gives some new way to consider the emulsion stability. So these perspectives of merely and nevertheless will help when formulators face problems and develop better emulsion products. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sakamoto. It's a fantastic presentation, and I'm sure a very useful one for many, many viewers around the world. And thank you for staying up late to join us, to enable us to record it for everyone. But thank you very much indeed. And
thank you very much.
To everyone watching, please also be sure to participate in all the programs offered in addition to today's presentations. We've got many on the world of chemistry, 2030 global beauty and personal care trends, skin barrier repair in the wake of COVID-19, the new formulation trends in Europe and the regulatory requirements, and investigation into the Brazilian cosmetic market, as well as the live panel featuring trends and presenters from Asia, Europe and Brazil. The programs are available on demand and are bar none the best available for our industry. Thank you again for joining, and once again, thank you to our sponsors, Givaudan and Personal Care Magazine. Also, don't forget to mark 2 dates in your calendar. We've got the ISTP Congress 2020, which was due to take place in Yokohama, but is now virtual, and it will be online between October 21st to October 30th this year. Also, we've got NYSCC Suppliers Day in 2021. Feel free to visit and chat with exhibitors over the course of this Week of Beauty by visiting Suppliers Day and clicking on Week of Beauty exhibitors. Finally, thank you again for joining us. I hope you stay safe and healthy, and we do also hope that we'll be seeing you all in person very soon. Thank you very much.